there was a thing called, the internet was happening. I'm thinking, let's find out a little bit about this. And over the course of 3 months, I taught myself some basic coding, and I built a really simple site that had prices and inventory on that I could change at will and just take strip ads with the URL. And that was the first move into having an internet business. Now, that wasn't because I thought the internet's the place to be. It was just because it was the most economic way for me to get my offer out into this small market that I'd identified. And really that was the start of Black Circles, which kind of, it later on really evolved into something really quite big.
This is fascinating because, and you've answered it, but I want to poke at it a little bit more because I think it really shows a couple of things. One of the things, I've actually had this conversation with a few people over the last week, Mike, and it's that the car business in particular is rare in that it can take in somebody who has no other experience. And if they're willing to see an opportunity and to work hard, to your point, there's a life here. There's a life here and you can produce. And I was going to ask in particular, how you go from no experience to starting a large e-commerce tire selling, tire fitting website. And you said, I taught myself how to do some basic code. Has that always been a part of who you are? Like, is that baked into your DNA that if you don't know something, you just go and figure it out? Because I would venture to say not many people are thinking, I should teach, you know what? I think I should teach myself how to code.
It's a fair point. It's a means to an end. And I think that I would say, some might not, but I would say that I was blessed with not having an ego. I've spent most of my life relishing being the underdog, really having fantastic experiences by leveraging other people's knowledge and being the guy going with the ask. So I had, around that time, when this started to evolve, the Prince's Trust, which is the Prince Charles has got a charity in the UK that they award grants to young businesses that have got a bit of a struggle. So the background is that they're not blessed with a kind of a jump start. So they identified what I was doing because of the circles. I'd started to mix in local kind of business clubs and whatnot. So they gave me a grant, and that was really helpful to allow me to buy a computer and employ somebody to do the admin. And then I had a business, and then I started to learn how to run a business. And I took a night course to do accounts. So I've got this kind of business evolving, but I knew that, I was trading this commodity on the internet, but I wasn't retailing. And I knew that if I was going to be successful, I needed to retail. So I started to read. So I read a lot about business, a lot of autobiographies, and that was my school, really. And I read an article on a guy called Sir Terry Levy, who was the CEO of a business called Tesco, which is, the equivalent to Walmart in Europe. And he happened to be from Liverpool. So I thought, he's from Liverpool. How we might even be cousins. So I wrote him a letter. He was Forbes Businessman of the Year, and I wrote him a letter. I said, I'm from Liverpool. You're from Liverpool. You're a great retailer. I'm trying to retail. Would you spare me some time? Not really expecting to get anything. And a couple of days later, he wrote me a letter. He says, come down to London, come and see me. I would love to have a cup of tea. We'll do half an hour. 2 hours later, it was amazing. And this was one of those kind of moments where I was, anyway, subsequently, a year later, it was 6 months, a year later, Terry invested in Black Circles, and then we've become good friends. But I learned from him, from one of the best retailers of his generation.